everybody, what's up? Circus here, coming at you with part two of our little game show that we're doing with Rye called Nerf or Power Creep. How you doing, Rye?
I'm good. I'm good.
The first video was a lot of fun, and it was starting to go on a little while, so I thought maybe we'd break it into two parts and still cover everything that's going on in the meta here. So we're just going to pick up where we left off. Basically, we're looking at the decks, and we're just saying, does the Konami have to nerf them or power creep them to help the meta move forward? You know, because the meta is a little
Hmm.
stale right now. How do we move forward? All
Right,
right, so
right,
we
right.
left off on Black Wings, and we're going to pick up on Witchcrafters.
Yeah, so Witchcrafter is a little bit newer of a deck. Not too many crazy support, although I think they just got support in
Mm-hmm.
the TCG. I think this is one of those decks that you just wait for it to get power crept. Right now, the strongest part of Witchcrafters is the negate that they get out of it, the monster negate. And another deck that you did that a lot was good old Dark Lords.
Yep.
And even though that was nerfed, ultimately it was power creep that knocked it out of the meta.
Mm-hmm.
Fiendish Chain just being available to everybody basically was Dark Lords, the whole archetype, in just one card. So there wasn't that kind of need for that anymore, as they kind of slowly left the meta. So I think Witchcrafter is one of those decks that, first of all, I want Konami to stop hitting for diversity's sake, because they can actually face these invoke decks and not
Mm-hmm.
be super scared of them. And I think the nerfs that they've already received are good enough to the point where they'll start being filtered out,
Just
with
naturally.
power creep,
Yeah.
especially like with XCs coming out. That's the one people don't, think of a lot. But right now, Witchcrafters have to basically negate whatever destruction effect or banish effect hit comes their way. So what happens when you get a monster out that is harmful to you? For example, Blue Eyes Alternative Dragon that wants to pop you, and then they negate you naturally, and then you just summon another one, overlay into a really strong level 8 that has another destruction effect, and then bam, popped again.
Right.
I just, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, Witchcrafters definitely seem good, but it feels like at any moment, they're just gonna fly off the handles. And even now, even after their nerf, they haven't been as strong as they were before the nerf. And even before the nerf, they weren't even that strong. Like they've never been like super, like they win a lot
Right.
like crazy and they're unstoppable. So
You got to
yeah,
work
I really
for it.
think you can just wait. Yeah,
You got to work
exactly. So
for
I,
it.
I
And
I really feel like you can just wait for them to get power crept. I think they will get power crept. It's just one of those things. It'll probably be a deck that kind of falls in and out of the meta a couple times.
and most of their monsters are different levels too, so you're probably not going to see them do really well in XZs, and they're hard to get out.
Yeah.
Like the ones that you want to
Yeah.
get out, it seems like they have a very long flow chart. You know, you're always checking like what's in my hand, what's in my grave, what can interact here, what do I got to send from my grave to the banish
Right.
pot.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean, there's so much
Mhm.
going on. I don't think you're going to really see them stick around for too
No,
long.
I just don't think they're unhealthy for the game in any aspect.
No,
They're annoying to play against, but at the
it's
end of the day,
doable.
they're yeah, it's there's a lot of other things that I'd want Konami to address over Witchcrafter.
Well, every time someone brings up negate, I always go back to the 6 Sam meta because at the time the Xian had the spell trap negate, which was just huge. And then what was the Inishi could
Oh yeah, the Inishi bounce.
put it back in your
You
hand. So those two
yeah.
things together just made it so overpowered. I don't think Witchcrafters
Mhm.
has anything like that. Yes, they can negate you once, but like you were saying with like Blue Eyes, even now they can just use a tuner, go into Vermilion Dragon Mech, and then
Mhm.
pop the Veer that way. So I mean,
Yeah, it's just the concept of clear weakness, right?
right.
If something has a clear exploitable weakness, you're able to play around it. So, for example, Shiranui has zero defense. So no matter what Shiranui does, if I'm able to get them in defense mode and do piercing damage, I have an advantage over them that they just simply can't overcome.
Right.
The problem with, back then is the Shien was protected against destruction because if the Fuma was in the grave,
Oh
if
yeah.
you played
Yep.
two or more cards, you get dual wielded. But if you only played one card, you got World Legacy clashed
Yeah.
or Nishi bound. It was just like, come on, man! I have literally no options. They've got all their
Right.
weaknesses covered. And it wasn't until much later that deck is obviously very much so power crept at this point. That even if you were to completely unrelease everything in the deck, it would still probably hit tier 3. That's how strong
Right.
it is.
Well, we still see it in
Um,
tournaments. Yeah.
we still see it in tournaments now, and it's still topping and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's one of those things where it's like, yes, the deck did technically get power crept, but it's look how powerful of power crep we had to get to in a whole year of duelings, just to get to that
Right.
point where if you completely unbanned it, it would be okay.
And I guess the point you're making is Witchcrafters really doesn't have that. That point where they
Yeah,
have all their
Witchcrafters
bases covered.
literally,
Yeah.
I've seen Witchcrafters lose to one back row.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, well, the Raigeki breaks and the Providences, they could just put Machine Angel Ritual in the grave and they'll be okay, Karma Cut. Uh,
Okay, Necro Valley.
It's like, what do now?
Yeah.
It's like, they literally just lose off that card.
A well-placed
So
Necro Valley, because then they got to
or
decide.
well placed neck, yeah,
Yeah.
and we do see people play like crazy, Storm, Night Beam, Galaxy Side, all these things to
Yeah.
prevent that weakness. But even after all of that, some of the best players in the world, they still, like a -1. Yes, he won a tournament not too long ago with Witchcrafters, but then Andy Sang in Battle Phase went super far with his deck and just couldn't finish it out
Yeah.
because the deck wasn't there, it just wasn't fully
Stalled out in the
competent.
top 8. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one of those. I think it's perfectly fine how it is. I think it's fine to have a deck that has monster negates as long as it's not, you have 10,000 life points and you're not decking out and stuff like Dark Lords. I think it's totally fine.
All right, so we'll go with power creep on that one.
Yeah.
Next one on the list, I don't think is a problem. It could stay around forever. People just hate watching it play. They hate playing against it. Is Ritual Beasts.
Yeah, Ritual Beast is an interesting deck because I feel like I still feel to this point that Konami hit the wrong card with limiting the Elder because all they did was hit the consistency.
Well, you
So
don't
I
want
don't know.
them.
Whenever
You don't want them to
that's
get
gonna come out.
started, right? Because once they get started, they don't stop. So that's why they hit that.
The original problem was they wanted them to stop playing TTH in
Right.
that deck because
Yeah.
if that deck TTH'd you, the amount of advantage they generated would just like beat you no matter what you
Right.
can do. The really crazy thing is if they open Elder Canahawk combo,
Yeah.
so they could easily just switch it around and just say, okay, Canahawks to 2. So now you're hitting them getting that combo, but not hitting literally like it's like if they don't open Elder, they're just like so weak. They just don't do anything. It's so
Well, if you have a
I don't know.
deck and you can't do some kind of search or special summon on your first turn, you're not gonna be able to do
Yeah.
anything. And that's what we see with Ritual Beast players is
Yeah.
they're praying to set that window so they can do their
Right.
special
Yeah.
summon if it gets hit. But if they just
Mm.
start with like Petalfin and the Penguin
Yeah.
or whatever, it's like they got to
It's
wait
much
till
more
they get a
limited.
tamer, and
Yeah.
it slows the deck down so much. So I honestly don't think having the Elder at 3 or unbanning it is that bad. It needs a way to get started. So I don't think it's that
Yeah.
bad.
I think if they flipped it around and just say Canahawk 2, Elder to 3, you're still gonna hit the consistency of
Right.
getting started combo, but you're not gonna hit like if they, for example, go Elder into Petalfin, at least they can go into their fusions to
Right. And
still
it's
play the
not,
game
yeah.
instead of set one pass.
It's
Yeah.
not the Canahawk
Um,
send him back, take a card.
right. Now that being said, there is a certain thing, steeds. I'm sure you've heard of them from time to time, that are really strong, and we probably will not see in Duel Links. That is the future support of Ritual Beast,
Mhm.
which a lot of people were like, "Oh, I can't believe we didn't get these." When I was like, "What do you mean you can't believe? Just read the effects; they're strong." So I think it's one of those things where it's like if they ever want more support and they do bring those into the game, that's when Konami should address them in terms of a ban list. But until then, yeah, I think this deck is one of those decks that can easily be power crept if we basically get one more, kind of Purgatrio card in the game. They can't do anything,
Or like a
Uh,
Casitas
we,
that they can't deal with. I know there's one now, but they seem to be able to handle that with what Herald of the Abyss or something like that, or
yeah,
Shadow
they have to
Game.
do like
But
or
uh,
Shadow Game, or if Spirit Dragon, Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon's out, they literally cannot
yeah, they
unfuse
can't do
because it's
anything. Yeah,
2 monsters, they're screwed.
that's
So
that's
when a
worse
deck
than
just
Necro
like
Valley.
and that effect is like so I keep forgetting that effect exists because we
Right.
literally just don't really see
It's
that
just the
in
only
Duel
deck
Links.
that uses would be
Yeah.
bothered by it. Yeah.
So when people were saying, yeah, Blue Eyes is really good into Ritual Beast, I was like, oh yeah, totally, because you stop the wind in the grave. And they're like, oh no, not that. And I was like, oh.
Summoning 2 monsters at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So when a deck is like completely screwed by some random effect that
Right.
people don't even like second look at, I think you just power creep it, man. You don't need to nerf this
Yeah,
deck.
like
It's got its own problems
even
over
their
there.
boss monster like is unaffected by its own cards. You could sit and use the little
Yeah.
line to banish cards, to boost up your attack, but then as soon as your boss monster attacks, it loses it. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's playing Ritual Beast. It's like playing a different game almost. So
right.
I think the deck's fine. I think they'll be all right.
All right, so we'll power creep that one. Next one has been hit. We saw it go away. We thought it was dead. Kamel and I even almost held a funeral for it on the power rankings, but it's back, baby. And that's Cyber Dragons.
Yeah, Cyber Dragon. is interesting. They basically just wanted people to stop playing Econ into like
Right.
Shiranui and stuff that they couldn't destroy. Cyber Dragons is really interesting because it's like anytime we're in a situation where there isn't heavy anti-destruction, monster destruction, um, Cyber Dragon will just be awful. And then if there's not a lot of Sphere Creebos, but a lot of back row and everything can be destroyed, nothing's being, like right now Neos is kind of stopping Cyber Dragon from being crazy, crazy good. But it's crazy because it's like the future support is is like negate heavy like crazy.
Okay.
So it's interesting.
Not something we
I
want to
think
get into because the non-targeting destruction with the trap is bad enough. I couldn't imagine negates.
them just negating stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't think Konami needs to nerf anything. I think they've already done the nerfs that they were
Mhm.
gonna do, and I think the nerf is strong enough that it's gonna hurt them for a long time. So I think you just wait for, because at the end of the day, a 2100 boss monster is not very threatening. Even if it can swing multiple times, it's just okay.
Right. Like you
It's
said, you
not a
hit it
big
with
deal.
the Sphere Karibo, it's over.
Yeah, pretty much hit with Sir Creepo, it's over. It's just one of those decks where if it's in the meta, it kind of slightly warps the meta in its favor, bringing back the Sphere Creebos and stuff. And that's basically what we saw. I remember a long time ago, not even a long time ago, like 2 months ago, not even. People were like, "Yeah, you could get Sphere Creebo, but Sphere Creebo isn't really a staple. I wouldn't really consider it a staple anymore." Just imagine saying that today,
Right. What?
with Purgatrios and Cyber Dragons swinging
Yep.
in. A lot of people they discredited the Sphere, and then Sphere came back heavy because they were tired of getting hit with a random Rampage Dragon just to lose,
Right.
and they realized, yeah, Sphere Karibo, and I win.
Yep.
So I wouldn't say Cyber Dragons need a nerf. I think you just wait for it to get shadow crept to get power crept.
Right.
But it is one of those ones like you gotta really keep your eye on it because their effects are just really gross to look at sometimes.
Right.
So, if you imagine a deck that can negate and has non-targeting destruction and actually has a real boss monster, that could be a problem.
That's a whole
So,
different story. Yeah.
yeah, so if that deck were to ever receive support of any kind, that's when I would really ban list it. But as of right now, yeah, power creep.
Okay, the next one on the list is one that people are probably, I think, are just sick of at this point. It's the deck that's everywhere. Everybody's got a copy of it, and that's Shiranui.
Yeah, so Shiranui has been hit so many times at this point. It's kind of like Element Saber. I actually don't know which one's been hit more. It might be Shiranui at this point. But they recently had a hit where their consistency was hit, and they've swapped places. And ever since then, the deck hasn't really won anything. It still continues to get representation, but it isn't like solidly winning matchups anymore.
Right.
And it's losing. I mean, it's all back row. It's been all back row for a long time, but now it's like, okay, and now you're really all back row,
Well, just
with
looking
only
at
like
the
6 or 7 monsters.
looking at the back, not the back, but looking at the power rankings and seeing the representation, it got played 118 times, but it only
Mhm.
topped 6 times out of that 118. So,
Yeah, so the deck has been hit enough. I feel like it's gonna get power crept basically just whenever a better back row deck, which is Neos right now,
right,
shows up, where I don't have to play around the graveyard. It just sucks because now it's like there's matchups that they literally cannot, like against Dark Magician. You're just waiting to lose for the most part. You can't do, you don't have Cosmic, and you can't even do things like play Gold Sarcophagus anymore.
right.
You can play it at one, so you can't even do Gold Sark into Spirit Master. So it's, I don't think that deck needs to be nerfed at all. If anything, what needs to be adjusted is the oppressive back row, but that's more of an overall game hit at that point rather than just Shiranui
I
specifically.
was about to say if
Um,
they wanted to nerf or power creep all the decks in the meta right now, just give us
yeah,
better back row removal, and that'll take care of everything.
yeah. Well, just doing things like if you can either play 3 Floodgate or 3 Canonic. You can't play all 6. That's just
Whoa, whoa,
ridiculous.
whoa, whoa, whoa! That's what gets most rogue decks into the rogue deck.
Yeah, so get the Fiendish Chain.
Yeah,
You open up a rogue deck, Fiendish Chain, Floodgate, Canadia. Hey guys, look at my deck I hit Cog with.
yeah.
And you're
I'm
like, bro.
Goki. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so there's a lot of decks that would be kind of the answer to for that. Or we could
Yeah,
just again with back row, it's a constant. power creep game. That Konami could just release crazy anti-backrow removal if they want to. You know, on one hand, you're like, yeah, they're not going to do that, but on the other hand, they did release Hey True Nate at one point and thought that would be okay at unlimited.
Right.
So
Well, yeah.
you know that,
If you
and that's when the OTK decks, they were reigning supreme. They're like, hell yeah, no back row.
It'd be interesting because if you hit, if you're able to just take out back row more effectively, I guess we'd have to rely more on monster effects.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know, and that's
and hand traps.
right, which we don't have a lot of hand traps. But monster effects
Exactly.
would be an interesting meta. I personally, I think when you see decks that are using monster effects, they're more fun. Like if someone comes out and they play a bunch of monsters, they do all this stuff, and maybe set one back row. It's like I can play this game. I'm in. We can
Yeah. Well,
interact.
it's also archetype specific traps
Right.
themselves
Yeah, that's great.
are not really here. Like if you think of a deck like Six Samurai,
Mhm.
they had dual wield. No one else had dual wield. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like you're playing differently because their spell and trap cards dictate that. So I personally would like, this is kind of going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I would personally like them to release more stuff like that instead of just really strong generic back row. Because
Right.
it's kind of like the same thing in TCG where they had to nerf Pot of Greed, you know, because it was so generic, it was that good. Just its text is literally draw 2 cards.
Right.
And that was
That's
like the
it.
most devastating effect in all of the game.
Yep.
You know, so it's just like, you know, in Duel Links, so I say it all the time, the meta is different. So when you have something that's literally, yeah, flip a card face down, that is so strong in Duel Links because I can't, for example, go, you know, I'm playing the game, I go to swing in, you flip me down in the battle phase. I can't go main phase 2, flip my monster back up if it's a Canadia. You know, obviously
Right.
flip, you can't do that. That's just not available in this game.
Yeah, it's so
So my monster just
devastating.
face down for so long until my next turn, essentially, which is, yeah, it's not going to survive if that's the case. So, you know, for Shiranui and all those decks kind of combined, like I do think that yes, the back row needs to be addressed, definitely needs to be nerfed by either putting things. And here's the thing: it's like if they go too crazy with like putting in mystical space Saisu and all these things, and it's just too crazy in the other direction, that won't be fun either. So I think their only real option is to nerf it by putting that back row on the limit list.
Right. I'd hate to see
But
that.
for Shiranui specifically, nah, they're gonna get power crept.
Right.
Yeah,
I just
you
feel
know.
bad for all the rogue decks, the guys that enter the tournaments like I got a chance. I know I do, you know, because they're playing all that back row.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to see though if Konami does decide to nerf back row, for them to be more lenient on the Shiranui specific cards.
Mhm.
I would love Gold Sark to come back, so that could kind of be a staple. I would love you know, Squire to be, you know, unnerfed, so it doesn't feel like you're bricking half the time you're playing the deck.
Right. Yeah, because that'd be terrible to have your back row and your starter
Yeah.
on the
Now
limit
here you
list.
can either play Floodgate or your starter. You decide. And the crazy part is some of them will be like, I
Floodgate.
don't actually know.
I can stall long enough to get that one Squire.
Yeah, I think we'll just keep stalling.
I'll just play Spirit Master instead.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into Blue Eyes. I don't know if this deck's really a problem
boy.
because this is a deck that goes in, it goes out, it goes in, it goes out. So I feel like
Yeah.
it gets power crept. Does it have anything right now that's on the limit list?
I don't think so. I think it's fully unless you decide to play something like TTH, but
Right.
that doesn't
Like
not
the
really playing right
stones or
now.
anything, or a Dragon Spirit of
No.
White, or no, I don't think so. So
Negatory, that deck is like one card away from just being totally busted.
mhm.
Even if it was something like I think MA and me were talking, or someone was talking, I don't remember who it was. Um, oh no, I think it was actually Buns. Um, what if the skill, instead of making alternative dragon on the field, what if it turned one of the blue eyes in your hand into an alternative dragon? That enough right there would be enough to bring the deck up to like tier 2, tier 1 potential.
Okay.
Because it's literally if you draw 2 blue eyes, period, you could just freely sub in a 3K beater that pops
Okay. Yeah.
a monster on the board, you know? So it's just like, holy crap, you know? So imagine if that was a card. Imagine if we got trade in. There's so many different things. And then of course with XCs coming out, there's XC support that's really good. Level rank 8s are really, really strong because Blue Eyes is one of the best users of it.
Right.
So
I might
it's one
have
of
to
those
get
things where
into
you have
I
to
might
kind of
have to
wait.
get into Blue Eyes because I'm excited for XEs. So if I have to get into
Yeah.
Blue Eyes, I'll get into them. But yeah, I think this is a power creep thing. We've seen it over and over and over. It comes
Yeah, you
into the
don't need
meta,
to
it
ban
disappears.
anything.
It comes into the
Yeah.
meta, it disappears. So that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Power creep.
It's one of those decks where it's like if it gets going, it's basically impossible to stop unless you misplay. We
Right.
saw someone misplay against Red Eyes, but he should have won that duel. But at the same time, it's one of those decks I don't even feel needs to be power crept at all. But yeah, we don't you don't gotta nerf
It'll
it. You
just
just got
happen. It'll just happen.
yeah, it'll just happen.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. Is Konami gonna release the broken support? Yes, the deck needs a ban list. No, we can
We're
just keep
good.
going,
We're good.
going Blue Eyes. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna flip the coin over there because the other side of the coin of Blue Eyes is Dark Magician, the two anime decks, right? Where are we
Yeah.
at with that? I think we're
So
power
yeah, Dark
creeping at this
Magician.
point, right?
Yeah, at this point it's power creep because they've already received the ban that would have made them ridiculous to play around. Once we took out those limit 2 cards, the deck kind of doesn't do anything anymore.
Well, I just want to
So
bring up the power rankings again. 46 times it was played in the previous week. One top 8.
yikes.
2% conversion rate. So, and that's
It's
what
pretty bad.
I
It's
mean,
pretty
people are
bad.
just moving
Yeah.
on. It's power creep at this point, right?
If people are moving on, and we're getting to the point that we're able to special summon so much that just banishing one card isn't like enough anymore. And then negating a spell or trap, especially in a meta that's like Witchcrafters just sitting in defense over and over and over.
Necro
Um,
Valley, you know.
yeah, it's just one of those things. It's just like the deck the deck is at this point. And now, granted, if you unlimit everything, I think the deck will still be strong.
Hmm.
Not the tier 1 that we had when it first came out, but it would still be relatively strong. Um, but yeah, it's getting power crept as we talk, basically.
Well, I love it. Like even something like Weather Painters, it's like I target
Yeah,
your Weather Painter Snow. Oh, it got banished. Oh, wait, by its own effect. Never mind. So
yeah,
there's things like that are happening where it's just like, oh, you're getting beat
yeah.
by Weather Painters. Come on now.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. There is good support for it, but I don't know. It's when the deck is good, it's kind of like a weird deck where it's like if it's good even in a little bit, it's just kind of annoying to deal with.
Right.
I think banishing and negating at the same time is just super oppressive. Um, but when it's not good like it is right now, it's just one of those things where it's like, oh man, do you really need to be playing do you really need TTH to be a good deck? Like
Right.
that's the requirement. If that's the requirement, yikes.
Yep.
Not a very good strong core that we have there.
What's your
But yeah, I
win?
mean, there's
What's your win condition now?
TTH.
TTH.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously the deck doesn't need a ban list or anything.
Yeah.
It's already been hit with the ban list, and it's basically destroyed it. And I don't even think it needs to be power crept. But yeah, it's at this point it's going to get power crept just from like
Yeah.
things releasing that are better.
Yeah, and everything else that made the power rankings this week has already been power crept. Basically, you got Gokis, you got Thunder Dragons, Evil Eye, Stall, Invokroids. This is all stuff that
Yeah,
it's already been power crept. A
that
lot of
that
that
stuff's
stuff,
not going to get to the ban list. That stuff's
yeah, that
you know
some of that stuff never was. Doesn't even
yeah.
deserve. It's not even on the radar of ban lists.
Yeah.
So
The only conversation to have there is, does back row have to be nerfed or can it be power crept? And yes, it has to be nerfed because eh, unless they decide to all of a sudden flip the script on us and give us all the anti back row removal in one box, it's just not enough time before Xyz comes out that this back row won't be oppressive.
well, if they do have to put the back row onto the limit list, I'm gonna make some lemonade here and say we get to make a new player video describing what the new staples will be and how to go get them.
Yeah, pretty much at this point, because if everything gets on the limit list, that's definitely going to change the story a little bit.
Yeah.
If it's only a choice between playing Floodgate or Canadia, is Canadia better? Is Floodgate better? What becomes better at that point?
Right.
Probably Canadia because of Xyz, but again, depends on what
Yeah,
Xyz we
you
get.
never know. It might
You
be
never
good to
know.
have them both. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, this is a lot of fun. I love these discussion videos. I hope you guys like them. And if you do, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. And you got to get in the Discord because that's where we host our tournaments, and that's where you're going to find out about them. And they're always free to join for the first 172 people. And then after that, you got to be a sub on Twitch. But that's easy to do. There's lots of ways to do it. So check that out. And don't forget to check out Gamersupps in the description below. You can use the link there and use the code DLE to get 10% off. So, hope you guys like this video. We're going to see you next time. I'm Circus, and that's right.
Take it easy.